Hello, hello. Good evening, or good morning, or good afternoon, whatever it is where you are, and welcome to this stream of this live stream of Explain 11. This is Stu for Flying, and I am a professionally trained pilot that has followed airline pilot training, and I'm going to fly with you today from Denver, Colorado to Las Vegas in the A310 by iniBuilds. Um, yeah, without any further ado, let's get into it. The aircraft you see right here is the one we're taking. It's a November 22901 Whiskey. And in fact, it's a really nice aircraft. I like the way that iniBuilds have made this thing. It's one of the more detailed airplanes in X-Plane that you can have, so something very nice to actually fly. Hold on 1 second. I'm gonna get some stuff ready and then we can go. Alright, so the current state of the aircraft is we have batteries on and we're connected to external power. IRSs have aligned. I just did that before the flight. I entered some data in here just for the IRS alignment. All the rest of the stuff is not done yet. We can start it as if from cold and dark. But we saved a little bit of time there. Anyway, let's get going. In the Airbus, we start with an overhead flow. I'm gonna try to do this by heart, but it's from left to right, bottom to top. So we start, check that our seatbelt signs and the non-smoking signs are as required. We don't need any lights now. No white lights in here. These low pressure lights are to be expected. These are all out. This is normal. Switch on ground control flight recorder. So that means that whilst we're on the ground, we have a flight recorder recording everything that we do. Of course, this is a simulator. In the real aircraft, this would be applicable. Let me verify it's on nav. Lighting wise, these all off. Strobes automatic. And nav lights, it's the 21st of November today. So since it's an odd day, I'm going to switch them to 1. It's just to get equal use out of all of the lights. Anyways, these are fine. Get the auto thrust systems on. Since we've aligned the IRSs already, we can switch the pitch trim and yaw damper on. Shed the galley. This is fine. Basically just make sure that there's no white lights anywhere. Verify that both our loops, our agents are checked, and then check our fire loops. Loop A is checking. Then once loop B comes on, we get the fire warning and let go. And then we should get the loop B fail warning as well, which should extinguish. Alright. Just for monitoring's sake, I'm gonna switch this to the emergency bus and this to the essential bus. And then we have some data on these electric buses here. Not that we're gonna use it today. Anyway, don't need to start the APU just yet. And then we come up to fuel, which is a reminder for me to start loading the aircraft. So what do we have here loading wise? We go to ground ops, load sheets. And hello there, one lonely person in the chat. Lovely to see you tonight. Anyway, I have filed a SimBrief flight plan. I can't show it to you just yet, but I have it on a tablet right in front of me, which has all the data that we need. We are flying as American Flight 310 because we're an A310, from Denver to Las Vegas. The SimBrief flight plan gives me my 0 fuel weight and my fuel on board required. So 0 fuel weight 108.6. I can't seem to figure out how to put decimals in here, so I'm gonna go 108 just to be on the safe side. And then fuel on board, I have calculated for 15.5, so 16 tons of fuel. So a relatively short flight, which is not really what this airplane is made for, but I don't want to be sitting here on my desk for a couple of hours, especially when I'm streaming to you guys. So we keep it relatively short. Then press load, and it's gonna load the fuel and payload as we did it right now. Just gotta click outside to get to my views again. Fuel is all aboard. Makes sense. And since fueling is complete, we can switch on all of the fuel tanks here. The light not required. APU agent checks and the APU fire switch. Again, loop A, fire loop B with the warning, and then let go of the button. And loop B should give a chime as well. There it is. And then the light should go out. Verify all lights are green here. Nav again. Pressurization system 1 selected, no manual here. It's all checked. Then we can turn on our window heat. They need to be turned on 10 minutes before we depart, but I think we'll make it like this. Get our oxygen supply on, that should have been on already. Engine number 2. The same exact thing. Alright, and now we can disconnect. Let go of the button. And the chime. And then the light should go out. Alright. Verify this is checked. Close the cockpit door. We don't need our HF radio currently. Arm the emergency exit lights. These are fine. No need for APU bleed. It's still off. Fault lights are normal. And switch on the isolation valve. This is fine. And also on nav on the third. Then we go through here, verifying all the switches as needed. Lights, bright, flight directors on, -5 on our decision height selector. Range and stuff is fine. I'll put on constraint for later. Speed, leave it like this for now. Because we need to do our takeoff performance calculation in just a second. I'll do that realistically when we have our final load sheet, which will be in a couple of minutes. Then for the top altitude on our departure, out of Denver, we're taking the Connor 7 RNF departure with a top altitude published of flight level 230. I can see this on my tablet as well, using Navigraph charts. There it is, 230. Up there. Initial heading is going to be runway 08, so 083. Oops, it's a bit too far. 83, no vertical speed requirements. Same, and just copy this over to the other side. Then down here, this looks fine, looks normal, looks like we are aligned already, as I said. Then just cross-check my altimeter setting. I'm using the aviationweather.gov page, which I actually used during my real flight training as well, which is showing altimeter 3037 here in Denver. So we set 3037. It's quite high actually. 3037, and then verify 5,420 is close enough to the airport elevation that I can be happy. I should look up my stand elevation, but it's a simulator. I'm not gonna be that picky. 3037 on the standby as well. In here, just verify our GPWS test. Speed brake was out for some reason. On normal. Then check here. Everything is stowed. Everything is fine. Landing altitude Las Vegas. 2181. So you said 2,200 set. We'll go flex takeoff, but we don't know the value yet, but we're gonna do a flex takeoff most likely. Unless we can't, and then we'll just put it back on auto. 3 green. Final altimeter. Oops, that's a bit too far. This works as well. 3037. Set. This is fine. Let's see, yep. Down here, checks out. Thrust idle, flaps unchecked. Down, parking brake set. We have a fancy radio unit here. But we're not gonna use most of it because we are gonna be just flying offline today. One thing that we need to do is test our weather radar. Switch it on, verify the rainbow is there, and then switch it off and to weather. And I'm at 5 degrees up. Light is fine, this is all fine, and we'll just quickly reset the trim to be sure. Alright, I think that we're done with that part of the initial pre-flight. I'm not sure, I'm still trying to learn this aircraft. But what I can do about that is I am going to just quickly read through the booklet that I've made, the simplified procedures, see if I've missed anything. Alright, looks like this is everything that I can do, so we'll go through the FMS initialization. So we press init, the root is in here, that's for the IRS alignment stuff. So we have the root, then next we have our cruise wind, which I have on SimBrief. Average wind is 03845. So I can click it out, it's easier. I do 038/45 and I press the line select key there. Flight ID, we are American 310. Cruising today at flight level 340. A cost index, unfortunately SimBrief cannot calculate one for me, so I'm just gonna pick 80. And an alternate airport is gonna be Ontario in California. Verify everything is here. Init page is done. Flight plan, Denver. Flight plan, Denver. SID. The departure, as I said, 08 Connor 7 departure. Oops. Get my ATC route here. It's easier. If I can find it. Okay, Werner transition. Insert. Apparently it ends with a vector. Is that true? It's actually the initial. Yeah, because we're taking off 08, it's the initial part, that's a vector. Can we skip it? Yeah, I'm gonna clear out the vector part. It's never gonna let me clear the discontinuity if I don't. So vector part is done. And then Las Vegas. I want the ILS 1 left via the Chow 1 arrival. Gap transition. No via there because they're both not really good. And then the rest of the route. From Werner, it's direct Zachary, which is Zachary. Oops. Then direct. So in fact we can remove that discontinuity and this should be the route. If we go to plan mode on our navigation display, we can actually go through the entire route with all the data on and see if this makes sense. Actually, this looks really, really nicely done. By SimBrief, it makes sense that we do it as short as possible. Okay, flight plan done. Then secondary flight plan. Just in case we have any issues in flight, we need to have a secondary flight plan, which is gonna be Denver back to Denver. And we don't need a departure, we just need the ILS of the landing runway that they're using. And I have no clue what that might be. What's the winds? Should have checked and verified. 1608 knots. Why did the SimBrief select 08 for me in that case? I have no clue. Anyway, we're gonna pick runway 16 left for landing. So 16 left. No need to bother with this. Although I'm gonna verify if I can. 16 left. ILS. No, just insert directly the ILS. That's best. Then secondary. We don't need anything else here. Or we shouldn't. Let's go over to our performance page then. So for this I'm using my EFB in here, that I have the data that I entered in the aircraft. So we go back to init, next page, and then we enter for block fuel 16. 16 on board, 16 checks, 0 fuel weight of 108, which gives us a takeoff gross weight of 123.6, landing weight of 117.3, that's fine. CG is calculated 25.9, and I don't know how to enter the decimal here, that's an issue that I've had, so I just have to press the button. Flight level 340 is selected, and this makes sense. We have about 50 minutes, 45 minutes extra fuel on top of our legal requirements. Alright, and we use the EFB to send the data to takeoff performance. In this case, we want Denver, runway 08. And we need an ATIS. And the computer is going to calculate my takeoff performance, or the amount of runway that I'll need, and which thrust setting I can use. It's going to do that all for me. It's really nicely done that way. Meanwhile, in the flight management system, we go to the takeoff page, and we can see that everything actually looks pretty okay. These limitations, that's checks. So we send the data to the FMS. Everything is input in here. Just need to put 165 in our speed window here. And then verify these speeds are correct. And we need 61 on our flex. That's also something we need to do manually. And takeoff trim of down 1.6. Selected. Alright. I'm gonna quickly grab my piece of paper again. Looks like we're ready for before start, although we still just we need to start our APU. So to do that, we switch APU master on, press the start button, and the aircraft will do the same. Everything that we need, nothing that we have to do. Then once it's while it's doing that, we can go to the menu here. Takeoff performance was done. To get everyone on the ground out of our way, close all the doors and then remove both loaders. They were finished anyway. We have boarded all our passengers. They can go away as well. Catering and the fuel truck are no longer required. This is what I wanted. We're currently still on external power. And it's available, so we can switch on. So APU gen is on by default. We just need to get our bleed air on. So we have bleed pressure. You can hear the air conditioning pick up. And we just disconnect the external power and we're self-sufficient now. Switch off this and that. We have our brakes set, so we can leave it as well. And then just our before start checklist. So we go to checklist, before start. Cockpit preparation, we just did it complete. Science on auto, fuel quantity. For that we go ecam fuel, 16 total. I need to clear this message, it's unrelated. And there it is again, 16 total, checked. Navigation, checked and set. Landing elevation, set as well, we did it right there. Altimeters 3037, anti-skid and brakes normal on, windows, doors closed, beacon lights we switch on, and we can release the parking brake when we're ready. Alright, looks like we're done with this. We can start getting our airplane pushed back. Ground services pushed back. Oops, just need to think of where I want to go. I actually want to go like that, this way. I'm hoping. And alright, we're ready for push, so we can call him. Cockpit to ground, go ahead and connect the tow, we're ready for you. Quick outside look for nice airplane. The tow truck there. We are carrying the Pratt & Whitney engines today, so it's a... Alright, go ahead. Yeah, it's gonna take a different starting method compared to the GE engines. I don't know which I like better. I like these a lot. They seem so sturdy and so intense. Is it connecting? Oh, yeah. You see the nose is being raised. Brakes released. Go ahead and start the pushback. Start sequence number 2, then number 1. Starting number 2. Okay, starting number 2, we do like this. We switch over to system A because we are pilot flying today on the captain side. Verify these are both armed. And then we press starting number 2. Starting number 2. You see that we have N2 increasing, which is our engine starting to spool up. At 20% N2, we can introduce fuel. There's 20. Switch the fuel switch on. Introducing fuel. You see our EGT rising. Very slowly. As long as it doesn't go over the red line, it's fine. Our N1 is increasing ever so slightly. So that's the front fan. And then our main way of setting thrust here in this engine is EPR. It's engine pressure ratio, which means the difference in pressure between the front of the engine and the back of the engine. Okay, we have the open light extinguished, the starter valve is closed. Which means that the engine is happy to be self-sufficient and start speeding up on its own. Okay, they're starting to pull us forward now. See the engine spinning. And it looks like it's stable. Yeah, the engine is stabilized, so we can start number 1. Starting number 1, we call to ground. Press the start button. Starter valve is open. See an increase in N2. %, we can introduce fuel. Fuel flow increases. EGT starts to rise. And in fact our N1 is increasing as well. Parking brake set, you can disconnect, show the pin on the right. Or the... Yeah, we want the pin on the right. I would prefer the pin on the left, but it's gonna give me the pin on the right. And it looks like we're next to the taxiway. I know it's fine. And you can see both engines are nicely spooled up. We can start our after start flow, which in this airplane is ignition to off, APU bleed off, APU master off, speed brakes armed, flaps for takeoff, and then we'd say thank you to the service of the pushback guys, and we switch the transponder to alt off, in fact, I think, just because we're on the ground. There's our bypass pin. We are ready to start taxiing. But before we do our before taxi checklists, I have the checklists right here in my little booklet as well, so I'm not gonna pull them up every time. I'm gonna read them. After start checklist: pitch trim down 1.6 set, rudder trim 0, spoilers armed, flaps slats 15-15, ECAM status. We just quickly press status normal checked, anti-ice not required, hand signal received, after start checklist complete. And then we would request our taxi. In this case, they're going to give us taxi to holding point runway 08 via Mike, hold short of the runway. So it's just one taxiway, we just pull out right here, then go through in the second on the left. And then we follow that all the way to the runway. And before we can do that, nose light to taxi, runway turn off lights on, and we release our parking brake. Now we can start taxiing. Left is clear and right is clear. Let's go. Give it just a little bit of power. Using the feet to steer. This aircraft managed to get me to link my rudder pedals to my nose wheel tiller. Which is nice because I don't have a nose wheel tiller. It looks like it took us about 30 minutes to get our aircraft ready, which, to be honest, I'm happy with. I'm looking for improving that, of course, but I think it should be fine for one of the first times that I'm flying this aircraft using these procedures. Now, before we get to the holding point, I want to do a quick flight controls check. I'll go to the flight controls page. No, flight controls. Oh, there it is. I couldn't read. And be sure that we can still see outside that we're taxiing straight. So we go nose full forward, full back, neutral, left, roll right, neutral, and then rudder. I'm not gonna do it because we're taxiing, but I'm gonna use the turns to verify that we have some rudder. Let's do a quick show from the outside. And we can pick up the speed a bit. As you can see, I'm doing some flight control checks again to demonstrate what they look like. Ooh. We do need to make that turn and not smash into the jet blast deflector. Okay, we did get our clearance. We don't need to worry about that. The next on the left, it's going to be Mike, and we need to take it to the left to runway 08, which is about over there. and we're quite slow, so we can pick up the pace a bit. Clear right, clear left. It looks really, really empty. The Denver airport. I don't believe that this is really realistic. But it's the best I could do. I got this scenery from the .org store for free. I think there is also a Payware Denver scenery, but I don't think it's worth it, especially for me with the lower performance of my system that I'm running this on. Okay, we're going plenty fast enough. Coming up on the holding point, let's verify that there is some stuff that we still need to do. Just need to have that auto brake on maximum. Actually switch on our weather radar, even though it's not really required. Even in the real airplane, I might second guess that, because weather radars aren't always that healthy, but it's a simulator, so we just follow the SOP. And just a quick takeoff config test with the button right there. Takeoff config test normal on the eCam display. Start slowing down. Verify that everything is checked here. Just need to pre-select 250 on the speed. And then I am gonna stop because we still need to do our before takeoff checklist. Okay, we're stopped. Before takeoff checklist. Flight controls checked. Briefing. Quick briefing. Gonna be taking off runway 08. Then at 5,934 feet, we can start making our left turn towards Tavern. Or is it gonna? Let's do a right turn. Start making our right turn towards Tavern, and we stay out of the way of the approaching traffic. Right turn towards Tavern, then follow as filed down the Connor 7 departure. Nothing specials. Our V speeds are V1. Let's get this fine. V1 is 158, VR 162, V2 is 165. Anything before V1, we reject the takeoff. I call stop reject and monitor max braking. Verify speed brakes up and reversers normal. Anything after V1, I fly the airplane, take the problem up in the air, and we'll deal with it later. We'll probably return to Denver with the secondary flight plan. Briefing is completed. Where was I? There. Flap slats 1515. Performance is checked. Takeoff config checked. Transponder TARA set. Cabin secure. We just need to get a quick ding from the cabin. Verify the cabin is secure. TCAS Tara packs on ignition and anti-ice are not required. Before takeoff checklist completed. And then we would request we would report ready for departure, so we can, we are ready for departure, we can go. Switch on auto brakes. Approach end of the runway is clear. Departure end of the runway is clear. And we can start lining up. And we are clear for takeoff, so let's turn on these landing lights. Verify everything is set here. Looking good. Alright. Does make me a little bit nervous. First time on the live stream to do the takeoff here. Should be fine. So items to go are threshold elevation check and a runway QFU check. Still clear and clear. Zero 08 QFU checks and threshold elevation checks. Let's go. Set thrust to 1.15 EPR. Stabilized takeoff. I have control. We press toga. Sets automatically our thrust that we want. Press half forward on the control stick. Thrust set. Oh, we're getting a lag spike here. Get back on the center line. 100 knots. V1 rotate. Ooh, gentle. Positive rate. Gear coming up. Actually want profile nav. Nav. And we do make our right turn. 1000. Profile thrust, profile climb. And on flaps 15-0. A little bit above trim. Get where you want. And above S speed. Flaps up 0-0. Oops. It's a bit much, huh? There goes 10,000 feet. Landing lights retracted. Actually, get these off and switch on the autopilot. We can clean up the aircraft for after departure. Lights and verify APU is off. So the after takeoff flows are checked. Climbs like a rocket, huh? Our speed is decreasing a bit, so I was a bit worried there for a second. In the end, it looks like we're okay. We're finally accelerating. And let's do a quick after takeoff checklist. After takeoff checklist. Flaps, slats, retracted, landing gear up, neutral. Packs are on. Altimeters are set as required. Have to wait till 18,000 feet here in the US before we can put them to standard. Increase the range on my ND a bit and on my first officer ND as well. Looks like the noise is getting a little bit loud, so let's turn it down just that little bit for comfort. As well, we are currently above 10,000 feet and in my opinion, the cabin seems to be, the air seems to be pretty nice, so we can switch off the fasten seatbelt sign. And our passengers can get going. I hope you enjoyed that takeoff. It was quite exciting for me as well. So by tavern we need to be 1-2,000 or above. We are. And then the next is Von. We need to be 1-4,000 or above, which we are as well. Then Tibo is 1-6,000 or above, but we are not there yet, but we will be. So you can see our top of climb is 340. It's 23. So yeah, 230 is gonna be there. So realistically, we would ask for our climb up to cruising flight level of 340. So I'm gonna set 340 already. We don't want to level off in our climb if we don't have to. And now we can see the system has updated our top of climb to be at 1. If I'm not mistaken, these are the Rocky Mountains. If I'm not mistaken, I might as well be mistaken. There's 18,000 came very quickly. Press standard. This is something that some companies want you to do on standby as well. However, might be also a good reminder once we get our weather information in Las Vegas to set it first on the standby, that we have something. Okay, so we get this ECAM memo. It says total air temperature in icing range. What does that mean? It means that our temperature probe sensing a total air temperature of 1 degree. And that's within the range that icing may occur. If we are in visible moisture, we need to switch on our anti-icing. And if we're not, we don't. And I don't know if you can see, but we're not in visible moisture currently. See if there's any clouds. No, no clouds. That means we don't need to switch it on, but I can demonstrate. So what we would do if we want to switch on anti-icing is we switch on our ignition to continuous relight. We get the memo, continuous relight on. Switch on the wing supply and the engine anti-ice supply. And this is gonna get hot bleed air from the engines into the wings. And the leading edges of the engines. Now we can switch that off in the exactly reversed order. Just be sure that continuous relight is the last thing that you switch off. We don't need it currently. Now, with this adapted speed, it's also recalculated our performance. We're going to be leveling off just behind Connor at flight level 340. Let's take a quick look what our cabin would see. I like these views, they're nice. Flyby. This livery of the American Airlines in bare metal, it's really, really cool. One of the reasons it's nice to fly these old airplanes is the liveries, they look normal on these. If you take this airplane and put the brand new American Airlines livery on it, it doesn't look right. Looks like we got some bad frames on the stream. I'm trying to resolve this. I'm gonna try to see if I can get something to work. But I have this stream overlay by Sim Toolkit Pro. But I don't know where I can get this done. Did I get it to work? I don't think so. Nope, it's not working. Never mind. It's not that important in a short flight like this. However, it would have been nice to see on a longer flight, but I can tell you where we are. Just under an hour that we still have to go. And we are nicely leveled off. See if there is anything else that we need to do once we are leveled off. Check that this is in cruise mode, no longer in climb mode. And then verify that everything is fine. Basically, that is it. There's no checklist for in the cruise. The next checklist is gonna be the approach checklist. And the next items are gonna be our descent preparation. In the meantime, I would like to ask everyone at home a question. Do you have anything that I can do better, or that you want me to want to see me fly, or a route that you would like, or anything at all, or any recommendations or improvements that I can make? Please do not hesitate to let me know, because as always, I am just learning how to do all of this. I am primarily a pilot, and I thought it would be fun to experiment with some live streaming. So, yeah, if you have any comments or recommendations or remarks, or even if you have some stuff that you don't like and you want to let me know, um, then I am more than open. Oh, and I just noticed that I forgot my en route timer. Better late than never, but we missed, let's see, by half an hour of flying, or push after pushback. We should, just before pushback, we should turn that on. So it's missed about half an hour. We need to add half an hour to the end of that. Well, look, there's an airport there. See if I can look up what that is. So I have this tablet in front of me. I talked about it earlier. It's running Navigraph charts. I use Navigraph to update all of my. Oh, that's Eagle County Regional. Yeah, Eagle County Regional Airport. I use it to update navigational data here in X-Plane, so that it's up to date with the latest AirX cycle, and it has JEP charts, so Jeppesen approach charts, airport diagrams, all of the stuff in a very easy to use iPad app, web app as well. You can even download a macOS version for it, which is what I use when I just fly for fun. The computer that's streaming now would then be just showing the map. You can even, if you want to have an easy life, you can overlay the chart on a bigger en route chart and have your little airplane symbol move through. You can connect it to the simulator that you're using via a SimLink tool over the network. It's some people say it replaces Sim Toolkit Pro, but I think it works together really nicely, because it's with Navigraph now having purchased SimBrief, they are working together really closely. You can import flight plans that you created in SimBrief directly into your Navigraph charts app, and into your Sim Toolkit Pro. And I'm using both. I'm using Sim Toolkit Pro to log flights and normally to display a live streaming overlay as well. But today that's not working. And I'm using Navigraph charts to have my approach charts. Because when I fly, I really like to follow the procedures as they are written, and yeah, very important, especially when you fly online, to have up-to-date navigational data, and Navigraph is a really good option. And what else do I use? Let's talk about all the stuff that I have in front of me. So I was talking about SimBrief before. I already said that I'm using aviationweather.gov, which is a website by the United States government, their weather service. It's basically a database of all the weather data that comes in. So I can just enter airport identifiers from the entire world into the thing, and it will spit out a METAR and a TAF and everything, and it can decode them for you if you don't know how to read those. It's really useful. It's telling me right now that in Las Vegas, the altimeter setting is going to be 3035. Winds are 0601, 4 knots. Visibility 10 statute miles. No clouds, 18 degrees. And the forecast is just a little bit of a different wind, but nothing is going to change. So we'll have a really, really nice time in Las Vegas with the approach. It should be easy. Normally they would give us a visual approach, but we don't have any ATC, so I'm just going to fly the instrument approach. I'm a European, and in Europe, that's what they do. I'm thinking about the other stuff that I use. Yep, no real programs anymore that I use to fly the airplane. I'm running X-Plane 11 on a Mac, which is not always the greatest, but when you get everything set up correctly, it should be. It really knows. It's a capable machine. In some stuff it's overkill, in some stuff it's lacking a bit, but stuff that I have to live with. So yeah, I need to get that tilt. Back to 0 for the weather radar and increase the range. Okay, that's as far as it goes, and we just get the edge of the next waypoint on there. What my flight instructor, every one of the flight instructors always told me is you should try to zoom in as much as possible on your display, and let's turn on airports instead of constraints. We don't need constraints anymore. But just far enough that you can see the first waypoints that you're gonna hit next. In this case, as zoomed out as possible. And it's really easy to keep track of that when you're inside the actual cockpit. But when you're in a simulator, it's a bit different. You just have to push the mouse. It's not as quick as just switching the switch. So my background, I studied to become a pilot, and I graduated right in the middle of the pandemic. Currently looking for an aviation job, preferably as an airline pilot. But I did my training at a very, very good school. They have really high training standards, so I'm really glad that I managed to complete that training there. And I did my multi-crew in a 737 full motion simulator, which was really one of the highlights of the training that I did. And the last time that I streamed, it was before I did my instrument rating, I think. Just before I was doing my instrument rating. And since then, I completed everything. I did my instrument rating. I flew a bit in the UK. I flew a bit in Belgium. And then I did my multi-crew and jet orientation, um, which is now called an APS MCC. So a quick flyby. That's loud. Now about the iniBuilds A310, overall I think this is a fantastic aircraft. The external model, as you can see, really high quality, looks very very good. The sounds are pretty decent. The interior is magnificent. The cabin, it's amazing, but I can't show you because I switched it off for this stream, which is really an underrated feature. If you have less performing computer, then the rendering of the cabin is really taxing. And if you can switch it off for when you don't want to be in the cabin, then it's really a performance booster. System depth is really good as well. I haven't really fiddled around with the failure systems just yet, but I compared this to some real A310 diagrams, and it seems like most of this stuff is modeled correctly, except for the stuff that's not really used in simulation in any way. Makes me happy that stuff like this is available for Explain, because for a long time it wasn't the case. We had to wait for quite some time to get real high quality payware level aircraft for Explain. Now, you might ask, why did I choose the A310 and not the A300 that they make? Well, especially since I'm flying a short hop like this, it's a really good question, because the A300 would have been more suited for this kind of flight. However, I think I'm not here in a real airline trying to be efficient and have efficient routes for the aircraft, so I just fly wherever, and then more range is better. Then I can at least do some intercontinental stuff with this thing, some long haul and short haul. And the combination of the two is really what makes it, what made it really interesting for me. Whilst the A300 is more of a short to medium haul aircraft. Medium is, yeah, you can still do some longer stretches, but not really anything longer than, yeah, nothing to cross the pond or stuff like that. Probably you could manage, but not with any payload on board. So just trying out some stuff there. Let's take a quick look. Looks like we're getting closer. Our top of descent is right there. If I go in distance to Mike November, Charlie, India November, then I can have a rough idea of where my top of descent is. 1, 2, 3. So in about 23 miles, we can start preparing for our descent. We probably don't need 100 miles. Just like to take some margin here, then I can do some explaining. And I can already start explaining a bit what we're going to be doing. For our descent, let's see what the book says. We need check the ECAM memo, obtain weather and landing information, set our landing elevation, check our fuel, program the FMS, set the DH on the flight control unit, select the required auto brake, set the GPWS flaps slat switch as required, and perform an approach briefing. In fact, just for good measures, we can get started with that already. ECAM memo. So yeah, memo is checked, nothing showing. Weather and landing information. Now, so that you guys can follow along, I'm gonna use the EFB, get the weather information here, and then for the alternate as well, Ontario. Let's see. Las Vegas, the METAR. The arrival METAR is saying it's published at 1856 Zulu on the 21st of November. Wind 040 degrees, 10 knots, gusting 16. Actually, it's quite old METAR. It's almost going to be renewed, I think. Let's see what this says. Yep, I have a newer METAR on my tablet here. It's actually saying something else. It's saying 060 40 knots, 10 statute miles clear. It's the same. 18 degrees instead of 17. Altimeter 3035 instead of 39er. Then sea level pressure, this was all fine. No real thing that we need. And looks like Ontario is also bit gusty. That's it. For the rest, it's fine. It's within our tolerances anyway. Let's see, we can set 3035, which is what my tablet says, which is newer, on our standby already. Just that we have something in case we forget. Redundancy is always nice. Okay, weather and landing information. Landing information, what does that mean? It means that we can start getting our landing performance in. So we're landing at LAS, runway 1 left. We can request the ATIS for that. And then our landing weight calculation, 117.3. .3 we can't, but 117 is fine. Okay, everything in here. Config, so we're landing flaps full. We can also go flaps 2020, but we're gonna go 30-40. Auto brake, low and reverse idle for first attempt. Compute. All right. And then it's showing our speeds and our landing distance required. the landing, our actual landing distance, our landing distance required, and then what we would have left on the runway if we actually used our landing distance required. We have quite a lot left. However, let's try and calculate with full reverse just to be sure. It's gonna help us a little because our brakes will be used less. Okay, we have a little bit more. Let's go full reverse. It's also a bit nicer. It's just a little bit more taxing on the engines. In real life, you would avoid it if you could. So we have this set. We can actually leave it there. Don't need anything else. Okay, so the second step is done as well. Landing elevation. Now we set this before the flight already. We're gonna verify that's correct. So I take out the chart of Las Vegas. Check that it's 2181. And it should be 2181 or 22 in this case. Set. Next, fuel. So we go to our FMS. And we press, see what it is. Fuel prediction. Fuel prediction gives us almost an hour, 54 minutes of extra time on top of our stuff. So it's plenty to go to Ontario and do some holding. Even though I think I prefer Las Vegas in any case. Multiple runways there. The weather is bad, which it isn't. It's gonna be a bit worse even in Ontario. So let's just stick with Las Vegas. On top of that, it's where our passengers actually want to go. Okay, fuel checked. And by the way, it's never a bad idea to actually verify that this is correct. So you press eCam fuel and we look at the fuel panel. And it's correct that we still have 11.6 remaining, which is what it was saying. So the calculations are based on a correct figure. Then FMS, program. Now what does that mean? We check that our approach is in there. So the next part, gap, is already part of the star. And then we have the approach, runway 1 left. It's already programmed. And then we go takeoff approach, enter the minimum descent altitude, which is 2460. And this programs our approach page as well. Approach speed, what did we have here? 140, so we can select 140. Oh, it's not gonna do that. We leave it as it's gonna do it properly. And we have the proper configuration selected. We can go back to progress. All right. Decision height set on flight control unit. Well, let's talk about that briefly. The decision height function should be set to -5 for us today, because if you select any altitude, the decision height is used for precision approaches with auto land requirements or very low minimas. A Cat 2 or a Cat 3 approach, basically. And we're flying a Cat 1 approach, we're going to do it manually. We're not going to use any autopilot, preferably. So we just leave it on -5 and deselect it. We don't need it. Then auto brake, we calculate it low and we select low on our auto brake panel. Verify that no special lights come on that we don't want. Then GPWS flap slat switch is in the bottom here somewhere. Or am I mistaken? Confirm. Ah, there it is. That's right. Let's see. I don't use it often at all, so it should be on 3040 if we were to be doing a 2020 landing, we need to switch it to 2020. We do a 2020 landing when we have an engine out. And then approach briefing, perform. So approach briefing, they follow a very standard pattern. We check weather, NOTAM, fuel. So weather, we did a briefing on the weather already. NOTAMs, no NOTAMs that are applicable. Fuel is sufficient and checked. Then, decision to land at Las Vegas. Las Vegas, everything is fine. We go to Las Vegas. There's no reason to not go there. And we pick approach ILS runway 01 left. Then we take our chart and we go over it. The 01 left approach, KLAS, Las Vegas, Nevada, ILS or localizer, runway 1 left approach. Right now we can see that I need to set up the ILS frequency 110.1, 110.1 with the front course of 014. Set. Minimums are 2460, which are set up in there, is in the box as well. Missed approach is gonna be climb to 3000 feet, then climbing right turn to 7000 feet, direct Boulder City VOR and hold. Continue climb in the hold to 7000. Alright, that seems to make sense to me. There is no reason why that would be wrong. And I would consider that approach briefed. There's no real operational stuff that we have to continue on. Maybe our approach speeds we would say and verify. But it's fine. We're in a simulator. We're not taking it that seriously tonight. Descent preparation is complete. Well, then I'm gonna go over to my arrivals page and see what our limiting altitudes are. We're coming from Gap. Alright, it looks like I can set this up to 5,300. Zoom in a bit, then we have a better idea of how far our top of descent is. I can set this up to 5,300 now. It's not going to descend yet because we are on profile. And 5,300, why do I take this? This is the platform altitude of the ILS approach, which means that's the last altitude that we descend to without any radio aids. And at this altitude, we intercept the glide slope, which is a radio aid that's telling us we can descend, and we follow that down. So we select, and then we set, and then we pre-select, which means profile descent is now armed, which makes my life very easy. Once we go over the top of descent, the airplane is going to descend automatically. I don't need to do anything. So we just entered the standard terminal arrival chart. The next limiter is flight level 240 or above at fill. So we have Munkin next, and then fill after. And that's where the limit is. And then chow, we need to be at or below 190 at 250 knots. But the airplane knows this, so it's going to take that into account. Since we prepared so diligently and early, it's nothing really we have to do except wait. So I'm going to enjoy some more wing views. All right, let's talk about what you are going to see in just a couple of seconds, maybe a minute or so. In 10 miles, we will be at our top of descent, which means that our modes are going to switch. We're going to go from profile speed to retard, which means that our throttles are going to go to idle. We're going to go from P out to P descent, which means that our altitude will not be maintained anymore, and we will follow a VNAV profile down. Now, the A310 is an old airplane, and it doesn't have any VNAV support in the climb. It does have it in the cruise, and it definitely has it in the descent. So in the descent, it's going to take into account all of the FMS programmed constraints in terms of speed, in terms of altitude, and it calculates a VNAV path. Now, it's not going to be very sophisticated VNAV path. We still have to monitor the descent. And as I'm talking, our VNAV profile has come up now. So it shows the deviation almost like a glide slope scale. We're currently on profile, as you can see, which is exactly where I want to be. Now, it's not going to be as forward-thinking as maybe if you've seen a 737's VNAV or a 7.6 or anything newer. Oh, pause the top of descent was still on. So there is retard P descent. We see our thrust levers going to idle and our thrust reducing ever gradually. And our altitude starts to decrease. Now, profile descent, profile speed can still come on if we are getting slower than our required speed for the descent. It's a mode that's going to be switching around quite often. As I was saying, it's not going to be as detailed in knowing what's going to happen. So I'm going to be monitoring the descent and applying speed brakes as required. And if anything happens, we can always revert back to level change and do it manually. Or in a less autonomy mode. Just, still on autopilot, that's what I was saying. Looks like we're still quite a way above our descent profile that we want. But we're still below speed, so it's not that it doesn't want it. It's not that it's somewhere that it doesn't want to be. Anyway, we have a very cold airframe now, and there is some haze in the sky. And we are in the temperature icing range apparently, so might not be the worst idea to switch on some anti-icing now, although I don't see any clouds. It's an edge case, to be honest. Let's just switch it on just in case. X-Plane doesn't always render the clouds properly, so maybe it doesn't show them even though we are in some. Switch it on. So that's continuous relight and all of the anti-icing on. For the next point, we need to be between flight level 230 and 17,000. We're on profile, so we should make that. We're at 26,000 right now. It's gonna be a tight one. As well, it looks like weather shift. It looks like this is the edge of the Arizona ortho scenery that I have. So the rest is not ortho anymore, it's just regular X-plane scenery. I have it in very select areas. And I have Arizona because I did a lot of my flight training there. And I really like to go back to flying some of the missions that I used to do. Okay, we're 230 overhead the points. Looks like we barely made it, but we made it. Actually, we're spot on. The airplane is spot on. Next limitation is 190 or below at 250 knots. At Chow, which is 19 miles away. Actually, 16 miles away now. It knows that we have to descend, right? I'm gonna give it a little bit of speed brake. And it's not gonna like it, it's gonna accelerate back. I don't want that. I want it to descend. What's going on? Currently, I don't have faith in the system. Curious to see. Looks like our profile is coming back in. Oh, the dog, if you're hearing something. Come on. Yeah, there, it's gonna ask for speed reduction. Let's help it out. Speed brakes are pulled. I have a key binding for that. The wings, you can see, nice big speed brake panels that this A310 is known for. Get back into the cockpit quickly because we don't want to overuse it. Yeah, less drag. What? Less drag? More drag. Yeah, sure. Yeah, increase your descent rate, please. Yeah, we didn't make it. We're overhead. They were 1,000 feet high. Luckily, it's a simulator. More drag, yep. Sure. Less drag. What? Okay. Let's pull it out. Oh, and some temperature change there. Aha. Okay, so the temperature changed back. So we were approaching -1. Actually 0 even. And it changed back. Let's first focus on altimeter setting. We need 3035. 3035. 35, and the third is 35 already. Okay, next is Wolf, no limit. Then back, which is 17,000 or above. Okay, that's why we don't want to descend so much. It's 17,000 or above. I was saying the temperature decreased again, even though we were descending, and that's because we slowed down. Because total air temperature is the static air temperature, SAT, or the actual outside air temperature, plus what's called the ram rise. Now, ram rise is the increase in temperature due to you have a really hot surface on the leading edges of your aircraft due to the ram rise. So that's why we have a difference between total air temperature, which is what the probe is measuring, and the static air temperature, which is the actual outside air temperature if you are not moving at all. I hope this interests you, and if you are studying to be a pilot or you are already a pilot, then you already know this, obviously. Back is 17,000 or above, so it's gonna level off at above 17,000. That's what you're seeing right here. And that's why it's P alt now, profile altitude, which is an alt. Like if you have a new Airbus, it's alt constraint in magenta instead of what you're seeing here. And as you can see on the display, we're coming quite close to Boulder City, the missed approach VOR that we have there. But I removed it from the display now. See if we can see anything already. Some white patches and some suburbia there. Don't know how much of Las Vegas I actually have installed. It's gonna be a bit of a surprise once we get there. And currently monitoring all the stuff, like monitoring how much fuel we have, everything is still fine, if the engines are fine, if our values are okay. Just a quick scan of the abouts as well. It's mostly scanning my primary flight instruments. But if you're pilot monitoring, then you're just monitoring about. Also checking the temperature if you still need anti-icing. We still need anti-icing. Also, our fuel is still cold. And cold fuel means that the surface of the wings, the leading edges are still going to be cold. Okay, we passed the waypoint. We can start our descent. Next, beeper 15,000 or above. Okay, and I was talking about how the weather was fine here, so I don't need weather radar. I'm gonna go terrain on navigation display. Should give me some nice formations. Yeah, see some nice terrain. It's cool to see that around. And it's clearly showing you that it's terrain and that you're not confusing it with any weather. Which might be scary if you suddenly see a lot of stuff painted on your display. Okay, 1,000 feet before the limit. And I'm gonna go through the next steps that I need to do. So approach briefing wise. We'll be going out until Terry. And at Terry, we'll be direct to the final approach. So before Terry, we want to be configured flaps 15.0. At Terry, I'm gonna go 15.15. Then when we have glide slope alive, I'll go gear down flaps 20.20. And then once we are half a dot below the glide slope, I'll go flaps 30.40. Once we go gear down, we need to verify that our speed brakes are armed. And we can do that once we are flaps 20.20, because below flaps 20.20, I don't think we can use the speed brakes anymore. And then we just switch on lights as required. So before 10,000 feet, we need to switch on the passenger signs. Yeah, we can leave them running about for a little bit longer, just for comfort. It's looking really good and really stable and calm. Nothing to actually worry about currently. It's not always very rushed, and it's never rushed. Don't get me wrong. I want to say it's not always very exciting and full of stuff to do. Just have to be patient sometimes and monitor and just be completely aware of your stuff. It's called situational awareness. You need to know where you are and what you're doing. Okay, there's... Next is Jade, so 1,000 above. Then after Jade, it's Tooth between 8 and 10,000 feet. It's our limit at Tooth. Okay, let's get our passengers strapped in. Actually have working fasten seatbelt signs. It's not showing anything now because I did the disabling of the cabin. Okay, have a nice turn inbound. Next, Tooth between 8 and 10,000 feet. Easily making that target. The landing itself, we're gonna go full manual on everything. So it's manual flight, manual thrust from the moment we are established on the ILS. I could start now. Yeah. Get our landing lights on. Actually, it's warm enough now. Switch off the anti-ice before our approach, and now we can start flying it manually, maybe even. So the 10,000 foot checks are checked. We have our lights on, ignition off, and then we can go for the approach checklist. Approach checklist, signs on, briefing completed, ECAM status. Okay, status check. Make sure that we didn't forget anything. Nope, we didn't forget anything. Checked. Altimeters 3035 on all three. Minimums are set in the dashed. Ignition not required. Landing elevation 2200. Approach checklist complete. Next is landing checklist. Alright, and I am comfortable going all manual. So disconnect autopilot, auto throttle. And we're manually flying the airplane now. The turn at tooth, we're in limits. Still following the flight directors though. There's no need to make it too difficult for ourselves. For this RNAV stuff, flight directors are really a necessity. Okay, we're on an intercept heading, so we switch on to landing system, turn on land mode, which arms the glide slope and localizer. We verified that our frequencies are set. And we just need to fly the profile inbound. Actually close the thrust here. I'll slow it down enough for our flap speeds. Now, I'm not looking outside, I'm looking inside on my instruments. For you, those of you who don't know, that's really important in instrument flying. You need to follow what our instruments are showing. It's different from when you're flying VFR, visually flying. Then you look outside all of the time. Okay. Then, tray 7,000, we can descend to 6,300. Once we pass tray, turning inbound for tray now. And we should expect to see our localizer come alive pretty soon. There's localizer live, and we get loc star on our flight mode annunciator. Descending to 6,300. And then at Kotno, we can descend to 5,300, which is our platform altitude. We need to configure, so let's go flaps 15. And make sure we slow down. 142 is our speed that we need to set up there. And let's select final approach. Condo, so 5,300 now. And let's go flaps 15, 15. Oh, we can only just do that. I misread that on my speed. Actually already on glide star. Okay, we're getting a little bit unconfigured. Let's go gear down already. That's a lot of drag. We can use gear down. And we want 142. Actually, it's 140 now. 140 is fine. Yeah, cross-checked. Flaps 30, 2020, correction. Get a bit of power in already. Flaps are 2020. And we can go 30, 40, flaps full. And we're 5,300 now at our final approach fix. Nicely stable and get a bit of thrust in there. But continue slowing down, so not too much. Okay, we are gear down, landing checklist. Landing gear down, auto brake low, anti-skid checked, slats flaps 30-40, spoilers are, oh, spoilers armed. And the wheel lights as required. Okay, we're slightly below, so make sure we don't go low and slow. Okay, we need a really thorough correction now. I was not paying attention because I was doing the checklist. That's why you have two people in a cockpit normally. Okay, keep this thrust setting in for a bit. And get back on there. We're not out of limits yet. We're actually on our speed, but we need to keep the descent profile going, and we're landing on the left runway. So we need to adjust a bit to be sure that we're on the correct runway there. Okay, now I figure why it wasn't showing any of that. It's doing some I have this plugin that's making it run a bit smoother. Get a little bit slow and a little bit low. Now I'm not only looking on the inside, but I'm also looking on the outside, cross-referencing and seeing that I can... Okay, 1,700 now. It's just verifying that I'm looking at the correct picture. 1,000 feet stabilized. And we continue. Just minor corrections now. Looks like we're still a bit off center of the runway. We're on our speed, slightly below, and we're on our glide path. Looking much more stable than before. GPWS callouts are gonna... Okay, terrain copied. Make sure that our aiming point is still set. Sync rate copied, it's fine. Correcting. Landed there. Okay. Land the nose as well. And the reverser's full, reverser's green. Not the best landing. But as it says, it's acceptable. There are 60. Stow the reversers. And manual braking. Let's make a right turn here on November. And we're soon gonna get an ECAM brakes halt message, I think. Although we did a lot of reverser braking, so maybe not. Okay, we are clear of the runway. Then just retract our flaps and our speed brakes. Let's say we can taxi on. And then our after landing checklist. Oh, we just need to get the APU started still. There it is. Brake stamp high, that turn on the brake fan. And cancel the master caution. To follow this taxiway until we get to the A gates. Let's not make this a longer taxi than we have to. Got the APU available and switch on the APU bleeds. Switch this off and this off as well. And then after landing checklist. Slat flaps retracted, transponder up. That's the one that we forgot. Standby. Weather radar off, spoilers disarmed, APU started. After landing checklist completed. Golf 2, the next one on the left, and then we can take one of these gates up there. Sounds good. Looks like our brakes are cooler now, so we can switch that off once we get to the gate. We don't want to stop here now, do we? Left, then left, and there. Or we can go park next to our American friend. Doesn't really matter though. And it's called Las Vegas Reed International now here in Nevercraft. I thought it was called McCarran. I must have missed something. Or should we continue? There's 2 aircraft there. Yep, I'm gonna park next to the American. It's not gonna be that much difference. I picked up some speed now anyway. Let's make a left. I want to slow down before making turns. Don't want to overly damage the nose wheel. Do we have any sort of guidance here? I am not sure. If not, then I'm gonna have to do it from the outside. Looks like there's nothing. The bright one is where I'm going to stop, I think. If you go a bit forward, maybe I can fit with the jet bridge. There. Let's set our parking brake. Looks good. We have the APU available. Then we can switch off the engines. Switch off the brake fan as well. We don't need that right now. Looks like It's safe to approach the aircraft and it's safe to move about. Just before we get anyone out, we need to disarm the slides. They should have been armed. Place the chocks, external power. There is no thing, so we have to get ourselves some stairs and a bus. Alright, everything is loaded up there. And now we can switch off the parking brake because we're on trucks. And then do our flow here. It's fine. External power is available. In that case, we switch over to it. And we switch off these fuel pumps. Switch off the APU. In fact, APU bleed off, APU off. Switch off all of these fuel pumps. Switch off the window heat. And this is all fine. And now we can disembark the passengers. And last but definitely not least, we just do a quick parking checklist. APU bleed off, engines off, differential pressure 0, light signs checked, fuel pumps off, window and probe heat off, parking brake as off. We have chocks. Then for security aircraft, we are not going to fly anymore. We go switch these off, nav system off, oxygen off, APU bleeds off, emergency exit lights are disarmed, APU and battery, so we can go switch this off and the batteries off as well. And that's the shutdown checklist complete. Alright. I do hope that you enjoyed watching me fly today. If you did, please give me a like or subscribe or whatever you want to do. Don't feel any pressure. I was just very happy that you were here watching with me. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed. Thank you very much and see you later. Bye bye.